Creek, save our water. Save
Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water. Save Eagle Creek, save our water.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson and crowd. Thank you. Welcome you all. I am glad we're all gathering here to discuss this important topic about making sure that our water is safe to drink, to play in, and is safe for aquatic life here in Indianapolis. I'm Megan Gibson. I'm with Protect Pike Township resident, favorite trustee Annette Johnson. Thank you for helping us co-lead this effort. And thank you to everyone who came this evening. If you're a Pike Township resident, do you want to raise your hand? Yes, I love it. And thank you to everybody who's helped so far. I do, have exciting news for those that didn't hear that American Tower Corporation has pulled the rezoning application. So we have one data problem down and another one to go now with the lead. Thank you to Lebanon Utilities and Citizens Energy for taking time to meet with us tonight and share about this important topic, as well as the Eagle Creek Park Advisory Committee members. We are really just jump right in, so I'm going to welcome Alex Haberfield, and feel free to go ahead and introduce your whole crew. Alex, you ready?
Hello. All right. Sorry. Technical difficulties to get started. My name is Alex Haberfield. I'm the Public Outreach Coordinator for Citizens Energy Group. And here with Citizens, I have Steve Verity, our Director of Water Production, Bruce Cooley, the Project Manager for the Citizens Lebanon Water Supply Program, and Andy Kiefer, our Director of Environmental Stewardship. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Steve to run through our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak about this important project. As Alex said, I'm Steve Verity, the Director of Water Production for Citizens. Me and my team are responsible for the operations and maintenance of the 10 treatment plants within the Citizens water system. To give a little bit of background on the Citizens Water, we are a public charitable trust that serves as a water utility in Central Indiana. We operate a municipal utility model, meaning we don't have any shareholders, we operate at profit, and we operate for the benefit of our community. We serve about 355,000 customers on a retail basis, and 8 wholesale communities on a sale and resale basis. These include the communities shown there in red, and the retail customers in blue. The wholesale customers are communities like Whitestown, Liston, Morgan County Rural Water, adjacent communities that we either supply 100% of their water to, or in many cases they utilize their local groundwater resources to provide for their customers, and then when they grow beyond the capacity of their local resources, they are able to leverage our regional system to provide water for their continued growth. We do so through the use of our 10 treatment plants, a combination of surface water and groundwater, with a system capacity of 256 million gallons per day, and an average day consumption of about 127 million gallons per day. It's common in utility planning and utility infrastructure to have about a 2-to-1 factor there, and that's to provide for a few different circumstances. One, water demand is not flat. If you think about your own water consumption, you aren't using water continually through the day. It varies on an hour-by-hour basis, a day-by-day basis, and a day-to-year basis. Secondly, we need to make sure that we have the appropriate redundancy both within each of our treatment facilities as well as between our treatment facilities. And lastly, we have to have excess capacity for emergencies, think main breaks or fire protection, fire events. So the combination of those things is what drives a system capacity that's well in excess of the average day in hand. About 75% of our system is sourced from surface water at four treatment plants. Our White River treatment plant to the south, on the map on the left, is our largest treatment plant with a capacity of 120 million gallons per day. Fall Creek, near the state fairgrounds, is our second largest treatment plant with a capacity of 40 million gallons per day. White River North, just barely in Hamilton County, has a capacity of 34 million gallons per day. And T.W. Moses has a capacity of 24 million gallons per day. Indiana is blessed with tremendous rainfall under normal conditions, which keep our streams full and plenty of water to be used for drinking water supply. But we do experience occasional droughts, dry periods, and those are where the reservoirs come in, providing a buffer for those time periods to make sure that our streams always have water in them, as well as being able to provide drinking water for our community. The remainder of our system, the remaining 25%, comes from groundwater. As part of this project, we are not making any modifications to our groundwater treatment plants or wells. But we do have 6 treatment plants with a capacity of about 40 million gallons per day, sourced from a little over 80 wells in the areas in red on the map to the right. Citizens expend significant effort in doing long-term water supply planning. While Indiana has sufficient rainfall and streams to support our community, we're not on Ohio River or Great Lake or Mississippi River, so it takes a lot of planning to make sure that we use our resources wisely for our community. So we use an integrated water resource plan process where annually, really on a quarterly and daily basis, we're continually updating our information to make sure that we have a 50-year plan at all times, a perpetual 50-year plan for water supply. So that includes making population and demand projections. The demand shown there in the black line with the 10% safety factor, the red line, and then appropriate projects, each of the stair steps, to make sure that we always have the next project in the queue as growth comes. And so, we've been doing this process for the past 10 to 15 years. The projects being implemented as part of this program are in that plan. And we do all this on a moderate drought basis. Generally a 1 in 20 year occurrence. Moderate droughts are the most critical time for water utilities because typically demand is highest and water supply is naturally the lowest. So we want to make sure that we're modeling and planning for those worst case conditions to make sure that there's always enough for everyone. Some recent projects that we completed over the past decade or so, things like Citizens Reservoir, where we converted an old limestone quarry into a drinking water reservoir. 3.2 billion gallons of water added to the system. Secondly, we've added 2 intakes to our system at 30th Street and at the aqueduct along Fall Creek, which provide both additional water supply during drought as well as flexibility in how we use our raw water resources at our different treatment plants and to provide additional emergency backup. And these projects like these have paid huge dividends in the drought performance of our system. If you've been in Indianapolis for any extended period of time, you'll remember the droughts in 2012 and 1999 and 1998 where Morrison Gas reservoirs were drowned down tremendously, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet. And even with the drought conditions in the past 3 years, these projects that we've done, we've been able to keep those reservoirs full. In addition to the 50-year outlook, we prioritize our projects on a least cost basis for that 50-year plan, but we identify every possible project that we can come up with basis for our planning and modeling. And that outlook shows that there's not only sufficient water for our system today, for the next 50 years, but even beyond that as well. And that'll be predominantly from two different sources. One, creating more quarry reservoirs. There's a number of limestone quarries along the White River in Central Indiana, and we look forward to converting more of those into reservoirs over the coming decades. And then second, our further south treatment plant is at 16th Street. The White River is a gaining stream. It roughly quadruples from the northern edge of Marion County to the southern edge of Marion County, and there's surplus water there to be used for our entire region. So, zooming in from sort of broad planning into the Citizens Lebanon Water Supply Program, this project stems back to 2024 when the state came to us and said, hey, we know that you do a lot of long-term planning, you have a robust integrated water resource plan. Would you be able to supply 25 million gallons per day to Lebanon? We evaluated our plan and identified that it was feasible. We had to accelerate a few projects from a timeline standpoint, but we've already done the engineering, felt comfortable with our plan. And then so we said, well, technically it's possible, but this can't be done in a way that harms our customers. Citizens can't be liable for any of the bond issuances, any of the finances, and it needs to benefit our customers. We were able to come up with a finance agreement with the state. Basically, the loans are non-recourse to citizens and citizens' customers. The infrastructure will provide some benefit to our community, and we entered into a wholesale contract with Lebanon Utilities, and they're able to supply that water to their customers. At that time, in 2024, 2025, was when the project kicked off. We did outreach to different government officials, regulatory agencies. Each of these projects required notices related to the state revolving fund process, and we stood up our Citizens Lebanon Water Supply Program website at that time. We recognized that we did not reach all of the interested stakeholders in this, and that's why we're here today. So, from a project program standpoint, there's a staggered delivery timeline. So up to 2 MGD, million gallons per day, will be supplied by 2027. By 2028, up to 10 million gallons per day, and by 2031, up to 25 million gallons per day. We'll be serving this demand with our entire system, but to bolster the system, there will be 2 plant expansions. One at our White River North facility, shown with the orange dots, 25 million gallons per day, and one at a TW Moses facility with 6 million gallons per day. In addition to the 2 plant expansions, there will be 53 miles of main, shown in the pink, purple colors. And most of these projects were projects that were in our capital planning process. There remains a connected edge of our system to the Lebanon system, but the majority of these were within our existing service territory and remain extensions that we had already identified as projects that we'd like to complete. In order to move the water around the system, there will be 4 new booster stations shown in blue, as well as 7 storage tanks to help support those. And then the one blue dot in the middle will be upgraded. There's an existing booster station there right now. Again, these loans are being financed through the Indiana Finance Authority, the state revolving fund, but ultimately will be paid for by the end customers of Lebanon Utilities. The program is designed to not exceed $700 million. The current estimates are about $550 million for the infrastructure. Now, Eagle Creek Reservoir, as I think you probably all know, was constructed in 1969 after significant flooding on the west side of Indianapolis in the decades prior. The Indianapolis Water Company had recently constructed more ice reservoirs in the 40s and 50s, and there became this opportunity for the city, the water utility, and the community to come together and build a new reservoir for the purposes of flood control, drinking that was constructed in 1969 with a storage capacity of about 8 billion gallons. The way the reservoir operates is the city of Indianapolis owns it and dictates the operating conditions of the dam. Citizens is the contract operator for that, and there are two different time periods that are predominantly relevant. In the summertime, the target pool elevation is 791 feet, and so the dam is modulated to release excess flows and retain flows as appropriate to target that elevation. In the wintertime, the reservoir is intentionally lowered to 788.5 feet to expose the mud flats in the upper reaches of the reservoir for migratory birds. And then at all times, there's a minimum release that bypasses the dam control structure of 5.6 million gallons per day. 3 million gallons per day of that is related to, or intended for use by the town speedway, their drinking water intake, and 2.6 is intended to maintain a minimum flow in that stream. Now, as the water utility has been here for the past few years monitoring flows and discharges and things, we've seen a tremendous change in the inflows coming into the reservoir. Prior to 2000, average inflows were about 63 million gallons per day. And in the past 25 years, it's gone up by almost 50%, up to 92 million gallons per day. And that's due to the growth of the upstream communities in the watershed. Zionsville, West Carmel, and Westfield, which are creating more inflows and discharges into this reservoir, thereby providing additional yield and opportunities. The TWO's treatment plant was constructed by the Indianapolis Water Company and completed in 1976 with a capacity of 24 million gallons per day, and that's what will be expanded to 30 million gallons per day. We anticipate the average production will go from the current 10 million gallons per day up to 12 to 13 million gallons per day. And because of the increased inflows, we can confidently say that reservoir levels will not change from the past conditions. And we want Eagle Creek Reservoir to stay full, to be sustainable, and be vibrant. The graph at the bottom shows the historical drawdowns of the Eagle Creek Reservoir over the years. And you'll see that in recent years, the reservoir has stayed full, and the sustainable yield has increased, as shown by the graph on the right, with the upstream discharges continuing to increase over time, having almost doubled in the last 15 years or so, with an inflow just from those upstream discharges of over 8.5 million gallons per day last year. And so it's this yield and it's this reservoir levels that give us confidence that there's surplus water available. Additionally, Citizens has increased its operational flexibility within our distribution system so that we are not solely reliant on any one of our water resources. In the past, customers served by TW Moses were only served by TW Moses. Now we have the flexibility of serving customers from multiple sources in our system, and that allows us not only tremendous redundancy, but it provides us the opportunity to make sure that none of our raw water resources are hindered or unbalanced or unduly burdened compared to the other water resources available in the region. So ultimately, the proposed increase in the treatment capacity is not because we want to draw down Eagle Creek Reservoir, it's because there's excess flows coming into the reservoir that are already going downstream, being unused today. So we'd like to use those for a beneficial purpose for our community. Lebanon will talk about this more in their presentation, but utilities, we withdraw water from reservoirs, streams, from wells. We then treat that water to the Safe Drinking Water Act, potable water standards, provide those back to customers. They then use that water, send it back to the collection system where it goes to a wastewater treatment plant. That wastewater treatment plant then treats that water to make it clean again before discharging it back to the natural environment. This graphic is specific to the Citizens Low-End Water Supply Program, but it's indicative of the water cycle that's happening throughout our community, every upstream community, and every downstream community in our country. So ultimately, there's significant water coming into Eagle Creek Reservoir that otherwise flows out of Eagle Creek Reservoir. You can see that in the dark blue columns that's opening in. That's increased tremendously in the past. We're using a very modest amount. We are proposing a modest increase to that. And ultimately, we believe this increased flow will be helpful to the reservoir by allowing it to turn over and keep it from being overly stagnant without the inflow and throughput. So, Citizens' vision is to enhance the well-being of our customers and communities both now and in the future. We believe this program does that, both by enhancing the level of service to our customers for our drinking water supply at no cost to our customers, more consistent pressures, better resiliency, redundancy, etc., and ultimately supports a stronger infrastructure for Central Indiana. The flexibility and increased flexibility in resource management through these projects will benefit our entire system, and it ensures the water balance by bringing water back to the watershed of origin, which ultimately will increase the drought resiliency of Eagle Creek Reservoir even beyond where it is today. With that, thank you for your time. I look forward to the question and answer period. Next, I believe Bob will be up.
Good evening. I'm glad you're all here. My name is Ed Gaskell. I am the General Manager for Lebanon Utilities. We are your neighboring community, and our slogan is neighbors serving neighbors. We're glad to be here and now make sure that there's no more misinformation Really, I see signs out there, protect our water and ecosystem. You'll hear from us about what we're doing to do that. That's what we're trying to do here. I'm a user of Eagle Creek Park. I go out there and I row with the rowing club. I hike here a lot. I have a vested interest, me and my family and I really, using Eagle Creek. So just like you, we want to have a safe Eagle Creek. When you see signs that say no leak in Eagle Creek, there's really no leak in Eagle Creek happening. What is happening is leak is going to our wastewater treatment plant, and clean treated water is going to be piped to Eagle Creek, just like other wastewater plants are right now, to keep it sustainable. It's about sustainability. And also, another misconception that came out in our last public meeting with your city councilors is that you're going to hear a lot from us about the process. We've been doing public meetings since 2023 because we believe in transparency, and it's also required to the process. We believe in transparency. We've been doing public meetings since 2023 on this, but also.
Hey, line with confidence. Line with confidence.
Okay, we have to let him speak, and we can hear him out, and we'll use the questions for when it's time. Thank you.
Okay, but all right, we're not actually starting construction on this project until 2028, and there's still environmental studies going on. There was a misconception in the last public meeting that we were that some people were getting notices on a drinking water line, thought things were progressing more quickly than they are, and that seems to be something we want to make sure we got out there. Now, Lebanon Utilities is municipally owned, neighbors serving neighbors. We're not for profit, fully owned by the city of Lebanon, and the man giving our presentation today is Dr. Bob Wessler. Dr. Steve. You guys made me nervous by yelling at me. Dr. Bob Holden with Wessler Engineering. He's a senior vice president at Wessler Engineering. He's had 30 years in the industry, and he has a good presentation for you. I just want to sort of get some high points that's sort of technical. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you all for the opportunity to have this time. Let's see if I can do this work. So this evening, what I'd like to do, obviously, is just have an introduction. I'd like to talk about water information So this evening I'd like to start and just make sure we're on an apples-to-apples basis with some key definitions. Okay? So when we talk about drinking water, we're talking about potable water that's being conveyed by citizens to Lebanon Utilities. It's disinfected to drinking water standards, and it is potable water. A lot of misconception about the term wastewater. So wastewater is generated municipally and industrially. It's water that has been used but has not been fully treated. Okay? Clean water or treated water. This is wastewater that has been through a publicly owned treatment works. Okay? So it has been fully treated and is ready for release back into the environment. An indirect discharge is an industrial discharge into a collection system that's tributary to a POTW. And then we have a direct discharge from a POTW into a surface water body. Some volumetric units that you'll hear me talk about tonight, millions of gallons of water per day. Okay, it seems like a big number, we're going to go through that, but that's how we typically in the industry talk about water and wastewater volumes in those units. And then cubic feet per second typically is a volumetric flow that's representative of water. The water cycle. So Steve brought this up, and just so we're on the same page. In this case, we bring water from a source. It's either a surface water source, such as Eagle Creek or the White River, groundwater source, etc. It's treated and it's distributed. In this case, it's going to be conveyed to Lebanon. It's used residentially, commercially, it's used industrially. Okay? After use, that water is discharged into the collection system. In the case of industries, many times that water is pre-treated before it's released into the collection system. As it's released, it's conveyed back to a wastewater treatment plant. It's fully treated. It's then discharged into the surface water. In this case, the Lebanon treatment plant discharges to Alpha 001, which is into Prairie Creek, which is in the Sugar Creek watershed, or as proposed, Alpha 002, which would be into the Upper White River watershed. What's important about this is the water balance. Okay, we've heard Steve describe the water supply and interlocal cooperation agreement, in which 15 MGD average flow is being brought to level. Okay, 25 MGD. As that water is used and conveyed back to the Lebanon wastewater plant, it will be discharged, the treated water will be discharged either to Sugar Creek watershed or into the Upper White River watershed. And the Upper White River watershed, the agreement says that we'll bring 15 to 25 MGD back into the watershed to maintain that water balance. Both of those discharges in Alpha 001 and 002 are regulated under the Clean Water Act. So when we talk about treated water, this is what we're talking about. Okay, this is an example of Lebanon's effluent from the other day. So this is treated water. This is what it looks like. And this is what Lebanon generates 365 days a year. Just to get an idea of the volumetric flow, you all have seen treated water being released back in the environment. I would guess most of you have. You may not know what you're looking at, but it's rather ubiquitous if you know what you're looking at. This is 15 inches being released from a citizen's facility into the White River. Okay? It gives you an idea of the magnitude of the flow we're talking about bringing back. It's very difficult when you think about millions of gallons to correlate with what that actually feels like. This is what it looks like. Okay? To give you an example, if it were to flow through that door, like a 7x3 door, it'd be moving at about 2 feet per second. You walk at about 3 feet per second. Okay? So, when we look at the water balance, this is a map of Indiana and all of the NPDES discharge points across the state of Indiana. What we're talking about are treated water discharges. They're regulated through the NPDES permitting process by IDEM. Okay? And this process is designed to prevent impact on human and ecological health. It's what we deal with on a day in and day out basis. And it's also important that we realize that maintaining the water balance is an environmental best practice. So when we look at the watersheds, okay, and Lebanon is indicated to the right here in the start. Lebanon sits on the border between the Upper White River watershed and the Sugar Creek watershed. The Sugar Creek watershed flows to the west and then to the south via the Wabash River. The White River watershed flows to the upper White River, to the lower White River, and then to the Wabash River. This water balance is important not only for Lebanon, it's important for Marion County, it's important for Morgan County, it's important for Spencer County, and all the downstream flows in the White River. Because ultimately what we're talking about is the discharge of this treated water back into these watersheds to maintain that parliamentary balance. So what's being done in Lebanon? Right now, 15 of the 25 are coming to Lebanon. We're expanding the wastewater plant in Lebanon to 20 MGD. Okay, it's being done in 3 phases. First phase is from 5 to 10 MGD. Lebanon's current capacity is 5 MGD. That's going to be done January 1st, 2027. Phase 2 from 10 to 15 MGD is going to be done by January 1st, 2028. Both phase 1 and phase 1 is under construction now. Phase 2 will start construction soon. Phase 3 from 15 to 20 MGD will come just a little bit in the future, but by 2031. The facility currently is what's referred to as an AO process, but it provides biological phosphorus removal. We're providing biological nutrient removal, and we're going to be set up for total nitrogen removal as well as biological phosphorus. The facility will also have chemical phosphorus removal so that we can get to very low levels of total phosphorus in treated water. Full tertiary treatment for all flows, including deep flows, and then ultraviolet disinfection prior to discharge. So why are we here today? We're talking about alcohol level 2. When we began to look for potential locations for alcohol level 2, we began to look in that area where the 2 watersheds meet to understand what can convey this much flow. So we established 7 potential discharge locations and routes. Okay? We reviewed these potential discharge locations crucially both for hydraulic capacity as well as water quality. The selection of the most suitable outfall location is based on several items. The watershed area serving the location, what's referred to as the Q710 or the 7-day average 10-year low flow in the stream, which is a single point of low flow. Harmonic mean, which is kind of a sustained low flow in the stream. And then we also look at the 10 and 100-year flood events in each of these streams. And what we found is in the area immediately adjacent to the watershed where they meet, most of the discharge locations were hydraulically challenged. Okay? They would not sustain this much flow. So we narrowed that down. Of the 7 locations, really only 2 could sustain the flow. And from that, we narrowed that down into being able to convey it south to immediately upstream of Eagle Creek. So that's how that location was chosen. Now, the reservoir discharge. I know we're all here to talk about the water quality in Eagle Creek. So just some facts, okay? In Indiana, there are 5 drinking water reservoirs right now. Every one of the drinking water reservoirs in central Indiana has a wastewater plant that discharges treated water upstream of that reservoir. Eagle Creek does not. Eagle Creek has 3 wastewater plants that discharge treated water upstream of the reservoir. 2 of those reservoirs have wastewater plants that discharge directly into the reservoir. There also is another reservoir to the northwest that isn't a drinking water reservoir, but is also certainly used for full body contact and recreation, and that's Lake Freeman. Lake Freeman has the city of Monticello that discharges immediately upstream of that water. So this isn't something new. It's something that the industry does, and it's something that you may not have been aware of. So let's move and let's talk about permitting and the process and the protections associated with it. So we're going to talk about the municipal discharge, and then we're going to talk about the industrial discharge as well. From a municipal perspective, what we're talking about is an NPDES permit, or a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. All right? And this is from the Clean Water Act. What this does is ensure that the discharge is not make water quality or people's health. Right? It's the government, it's the vehicle that translates the requirements of the Clean Water Act into an operation. So through an NPDES permit, you have discharge limits that you have to meet. There are two types of discharge limits. There's a water quality based limit, okay, which is designed to protect aquatic toxicity and human health. And there's a total maximum daily load, where you look at the concentration that's coming into the water body, or the mass that's coming into the water body, and you understand the health of the water body. These regulations apply at the end of pipe. And what that means is, when you are the stream, when you are at that low flow period, and there's a treated water discharge, you have to meet your compliance plan without the benefit of any dilution. So we have to treat to that lowest possible level. And then we have technology-based limits, which are typically industrial in nature, but they're categorical standards, and they also apply at the end of the process generating wastewater. The more stringent the two apply, whichever is more applicable. So where are we right now in the permitting process? So we began this process with what's referred to as a waste load allocation, which we write out and say, we're proposing to discharge at this location. What are the preliminary limits that you would put in an NPDES permit? And IDEM writes back, and they give us the limits. The reason the discharge point was chosen upstream of Eagle Creek and where we put that was because we wanted to derive the most stringent limits that we could. Because we knew that we were going to have to meet these and we needed to include these in our treatment design. And so that's what that is. That is not the final location, and we are in discussion about where we could potentially move that location. Okay? But we knew that if we put it there, we would have the most stringent limits. The second thing that comes out of that is an anti-degradation method. So I then nicely give you the limits, and they also say you're going to be subject to an anti-degradation. So that results in the submission of an anti-degradation demonstration. What that does is we have to demonstrate that our potential discharge will not lower water quality, or that we have a reason for doing so, and it's associated with economic justification. We'll go into this in more detail in just a second, but after the end of the day, we go into construction committee. We've been through that for the wastewater plant based on the limits that were proposed. And then at the end, prior to going into operation, is when the issuance of an NPDES permit comes about. So what does an anti-degradation demonstration do? This is the vehicle that IDEM uses, that they have a statewide anti-deg policy. And it establishes procedures to maintain water quality across the state. Okay. Policy is designed to protect high-quality waters of the state. It protects aquatic and wildlife uses for the water body. Protects existing uses, recreational uses, physical modification. Okay? And it also is subject to review by the US EPA. So IDEM has to review this demonstration, also under the eyes of the US EPA. Now, when we submit this demonstration, we haven't submitted it yet. It's in draft form right now. It may change based on where outfall location is finally cited, but it will be publicly noticed. Right? Everybody will have a chance to review it if you so choose. Okay? And then we'll put it out so that people can look at it. It has to go through the public hearing process, and it also has to go so you will have the ability to comment verbally and written. So that process is forthcoming. So let's go back to the NPDES permit. All right. Once the NPDES permit is issued, wastewater plants have to report their operations to both the EPA and to the state. Wastewater plants generate an enormous amount of data. We check influent, we check effluent, we check operation parameters, etc. Every piece of data that's taken at a wastewater plant is required to be reported to both the US EPA and to IDEM. What that looks like is this. Every month, by the 5th of the month, the wastewater plant submits a discharge monitoring report to the US EPA, and they submit an MRO, which is a monthly report of operations, to IDEM, both of which are discoverable. EPA means its compliance clearinghouse that you can look at. It's the ECHO database. And IDEM reports are all published on the virtual file cabinet. So if you want to see the operations reports of any wastewater plant in the state, you can go to the VFC and look up that facility, and they're all there. Now, that being said, I will tell you that I will put Lebanon's compliance record in these things. Lebanon is a very well-run wastewater plant. That's good, because the next thing we're going to talk about is enforcement. MPDES permits carry both civil and criminal penalties associated with non-compliance. All right? So if you're a bad actor, there are serious ramifications for non-compliance. Additionally, all of facility monitoring reports I've just said are public documents. If the general public feels that both EPA and IDEM are not enforcing an MPDES permit, the general public can initiate legal action against the utility themselves. So, just an interesting fact. Let's skip ahead and let's look at the industrial side of this. All right. Pre-treatment program. So, the state program that Lebanon is part of has three primary objectives. So, this is the aspect that we've seen what the municipal protects the environment from the municipal perspective. Now let's look at the industrial perspective and what protects the wastewater plant from the industrial customers. So three objectives in the pre-treatment program. First is to prevent the introduction of pollutants that will interfere with the operation of the wastewater plant. So anything that will upset the plant is intended to be prohibited. Prevent the introduction of pollutants that pass through the wastewater treatment plant. And then lastly, improve opportunities to recycle and industrial and municipal wastewaters. So, the Lebanon pre-treatment program is well established. It's been around for years. They operate what's referred to as a non-delegated pre-treatment program. This is a program where Lebanon administers the program. IDEM writes the permits. Okay? And that's a conscious choice by Lebanon so that they can maintain IDEM writing the permits. Lebanon is responsible for records compliance. They're responsible for compliance inspection and independent sampling. They're also responsible for enforcement. Lebanon can go in and cease discharge in an industry that's not in compliance with the permit. They can't terminate the permit because only IDEM has that authority in that non-delegated program. IDEM can enforce non-compliance on both Lebanon Utilities and the industry if Lebanon Utilities and the industry are not acting. So, pre-treatment program. Who gets a pre-treatment permit? Well, two things true. First is categorical standard. I'm out of time. I'm going to finish in just a second. I've got 2 minutes left. First is categorical standard. So if you're one of 58 different types of industry, you automatically get a pre-treatment. Pharmaceutical manufacturing automatically gets a pre-treatment. Second is that you're a significant industrial user. So if you just start doing 25,000 gallons of processed wastewater a day, excluding sanitary, non-contact, or boiler, you get a pre-treatment. Or if you contribute to process waste stream that makes up more than 5% of the hydraulic or organic load into the treatment, you get IDP. Last category is if you have a reasonable potential in the opinion of either Lebanon Utilities or IDEM to adversely impact the PHW, they can enforce and manage it as well. So these are things. Now, if you fall outside of that, Lebanon still has the sewer recipients. So there is a final umbrella to govern what can be discharged into the Lebanon system. So we've seen the municipal discharge, we've seen the industrial discharge. So to wrap it up, key takeaways. Citizens in Lebanon Utilities both care about the sustainability of Eden Creek. As that one now we argues is Eden Creek ourselves. It's a high priority for this project, highest priority. This is being done in an effort to maintain the watershed balance because it is important to maintain this. We're not anticipating water levels which we are anticipating the water levels will remain unchanged. The modeling we've done is showing very positive. We're not anticipating impact to ecology, fish, birds, etc. We're not anticipating any impact on recreational use. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Luann and Martin, but would just like to put these out. If you have questions, there are little citizens emails available at the top and their website, which is where their documents are posted. And then Lebanon Utilities has the same. So if you email either of these two addresses, you can get a response to a specific question. If you don't want to ask that question, and then this is the clearinghouse for these documents. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for your patience as we switch laptops. I want to thank the elected officials that were able to be here tonight. You want to stand up, we'd love to recognize you and just give everyone a wave and a hello. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to introduce the Happy to introduce the Eagle Creek Park Advisory Committee. Thank you, Luann and Marty, for being here.
Thank you to all of you for being here today. Thank you especially to the elected officials for your time, for your commitment, for your energy. Had you all not written letters and made those calls, had you all not kept the pressure up, had you not let them know this is important to you, these people would not be here. So please give them another round of applause. Marty and I are members of the Eagle Creek Advisory Committee. If you don't know who those folks are, I know there are several of them in the room tonight. You can wave their hands. We are a citizens committee that are affiliated with the park. We are the oldest friends group in the park system. We were created in 1972. We are composed of all the user groups you can think of. We are bikers and hikers and swimmers and walkers and runners and paddleboarders and sailors and kayakers and all of the things. People who just like to take their dogs for a walk in the sunshine. That's us. We have been committed to the park for a number of years, and our job has always been to notify and provide feedback to the city when there are changes and modifications to the park. That may mean things like they're adding Go Ape. Go Ape is a new attraction, but they're going to put things in the trees. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? What do you guys think? Rick wants to add more boat docks. What does that impact in the park? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? The water company wants to change the treatment that it uses for blue-green algae in the reservoir. Here's what's going to happen, here's what the potential impacts may be, here's the reasons of change, is that a good thing or a bad thing? We also have input on the deer management plan. So our goal is really to look at, most importantly, how to protect and preserve the park as it relates to any potential changes that may be coming along.
Thank you.
Facts and figures, as these guys said, the dam and the reservoir were built in the late 60s. It was originally built for flood control and recreation. The water component was added as the reservoir was built. There are contractual stipulations that they told you about as well. There's water for speedway that goes over the dam. There's water to keep water in the creek for all the aquatic organisms. And there's also a 19.8 million gallon a day limit on withdrawal for citizens to provide water to its customers. The park itself, we all know and love. It was created in 1972. It remains one of the largest municipal parks in the country. It has more than 1.3 million visitors, more than many other parks. And Parks Committee, it contributes more than $1.4 million to the Parks budget to support all of the parks in the city of Indianapolis, not just Eagle Creek. We also happen to be in a location where there are a lot of national and regional events that just got this easement letter from citizens, and we have to return it in 30 days, and it says they're going to take part of our property for easement, and they're going to build a high-pressure water line to leak in Lebanon, and they're going to start construction January 1st, which is in about 60 days. And he said, that's interesting. We don't know anything about that. And those concerns came from people on the road. It came from people on 82nd Street. It came from people on 88th Street. It came from people in Hendricks County. It came from people in Boone County. We got lots of questions, and you all know this community. We are very friendly. We talk a lot. There were a lot of questions that were ongoing. We started making phone calls, asking to see what we could find. Most importantly, the first thing we found is that citizens had a contract with Lebanon to provide 25 million gallons per day, up to 25 million gallons a day of drinking water. This process, because of the way that it was created by the State Economic Development Corporation and the Indiana Finance Authority, goes around most of the guardrails that exist for $8 billion infrastructure project. That it's important for you to understand, no one in this room was a part of that decision. I want to make that point. No one in this room, I should look at every face here. No one in this room was a part of that decision. Folks in this room today are trying to resolve these issues. That's very important for us all to keep in mind. Thank you all the citizens of Lebanon for having these conversations and explaining your plans to people, because this is the first opportunity they have had to hear directly from you what you're doing, why you're doing it, and why it's important. So thank you for that. Part of the challenge with the easement process, because this was not a project that was regulated by the IURC, there was no place for these neighbors to go to ask the question and get more information. The IURC only hears cases that are filed before it. There was no case. The OUCC, the Office of Utility Consumer Counsel, only takes comments on cases before the IURC. So they went to a number of elected officials, Senator J.D. Ford among them. I don't see him here. Senator Ford. To try to get some conversations started with citizens. They did, as they know, have a public meeting on wastewater and easement in their plant last January. Anybody aware there was a wastewater plant that was going to be expanded in Lebanon that was going to discharge into Marion County into Eagle Creek? No. Little thing we have to work on there. There's also a paper trail back in 2022 on this project, because citizens in Lebanon originally were going to have a contract arrangement to provide water, as they have done with several other communities. The other thing that we very quickly discovered in having conversations with folks is that everyone seemed to be looking at this transaction with water as a commodity rather than as a natural resource. If you've been to the park, you know what an integral centerpiece that reservoir is. For the critters, for the people, for all of us, it's important. We understand there are business folks who think that water comes and water goes. But for us, it does have a substantial meaning, it does have a substantial value, and it is not monetary in that existence. If you're one of the 9 businesses in Lebanon who's going to be supplied by this 52-mile pipeline and $1 billion project, you may think that's a robust opportunity. If you're one of the 478 property owners who got easements but yet cannot tie into that line, you may pick a different word to describe it. excellent. We're both very gracious for taking time to meet with us. We sat down with citizens at the beginning of December. We learned, number one, most importantly, everything we had read and researched at that point said the LEAP project needed 100 million gallons of water per day. Every headline, every news story, every interview with elected officials in Lebanon, anybody who talked about LEAP, it needed 100 million gallons of water a day. We panicked. How many people saw the water level of the reservoir this year? Was it up? No. It was down. Point one in our concerns. Having them explain to us that they were only looking at a project that would take up to 25 million was a substantial fact point that we did not have before. Now, there remain some questions. Not all the businesses are at LEAP. How do you know how much water they're going to need? Based on our trust factor at the moment, we're still working on those things, but we're working on them. We also asked about things that people in the area would notice. They will be expanding the Moses plant. Those expansions will occur in the fence line, not outside of it. In the fence line, not outside of it. That's important because it's surrounded on three sides of the neighborhoods. They'll also be adding a water tank, 140 feet tall, 2 million gallons a day. 2 million gallon tank, sorry, just south on the southeast side of Lafayette Road and 56th Street. You will also have, they can explain why water tanks are important, but you need them to move water up and down. However, just another change in the neighborhood that we want to make sure people know about. It was something that we learned. Those service lines I mentioned. The other question we have is about the withdrawal contract with the city. That is a 50-year contract. It expires on July 1st of this year. So, if in fact we're going to take 1 to 3 million gallons a day, on average, of water from the reservoir, send it north to Lebanon, we would like to be sure that the withdrawal number contract doesn't dramatically escalate to a number that would make us nervous that they're going to take more water out and send it north. These are average production numbers. This is important for us to understand. It's important for everybody to be on the same page. The other thing we learned in the citizens meeting is that Lebanon Utilities was going to be doing the wastewater. Wastewater was new because everybody's been talking about water, right? This whole project, Lafayette, the whole big deal was all about water. When we spoke with Lebanon at the beginning of January, they explained to us, as Bob did for you, about the expansion and treatment of the plant. They do have a very strong compliance record. They got going from a 5 MGP plant up to one on average that's going to produce 15 to 20, and the peak capacity of that plant is 43. The peak capacity of that plant is 43. There's a lot of things here about math and a lot of things about transparency. So just try to keep those things in mind. We are going with numbers we are told. We are also looking at numbers that we can see on a piece of paper.
Yes.
Okay? The other thing that was new was we found that the wastewater flow was not going to Third Creek, that they were gifting us the wastewater back to Eagle Creek. The proposed outfall is at the mouth of the reservoir. It is just west of Lafayette Road. As Bob explained, it is one of 7 locations that they're looking at. Some decisions are still to be made. Those are conversations that we hope to have to be able to continue. Wastewater discharge, Marty's going to get into, but just a couple of things. They showed you a map with a bunch of blue dots, 1,300 dots. Those are all of the wastewater in the DES outfalls in the state of Indiana. Very few of those, 1,300, go directly into the drinking water supply. Why is that important? Because in wastewater treatment, here's wastewater 101, the engineers can give you their version on the bomb. When a plant discharges into a stream, that stream is going to provide a flowing body of water for that dilution to come into. That is going to continue to aerate and mix that flow with the existing stream. It's going to give some natural cleansing to that process, and most importantly, it's going to remove all of the potential trace contaminants that are in there along and down the road. Accidents happen. Our job, most importantly, on behalf of the park, is about risk mitigation to the best of our abilities. Even with the best technology, even with the best training, even with the best personnel, even with the best processes, sometimes things go wrong. And if you were here in 1999, and you remember the guy fish kill, there were 4.5 million dead fish, and it's taken that river 20 years to recover. That was a bad situation. It does not happen often, but if and when it does, clearly the consequences can be catastrophic. The new flow that they talked about, while there is some wastewater flow that comes into the reservoir today, it does travel that stream before it goes straight into the reservoir. It also will roughly triple the existing wastewater that goes into the reservoir today. The other place that we have some concern really is about the green algae. I'll let Marty talk about that. But how many of you get water from the Moses plant? Do you know where your water comes from? You know how in the summertime you sometimes get that kind of funky, earthy taste? That's caused in a lot of cases by the growth of the green algae in the reservoir. They have to treat that. They treat it again when it comes into the plant. If you are a water sport contact user, you may get some skin irritation from that. You're also going to have some more treatment that these guys are going to have to pay for at the treatment plant if that additional phosphorus and those nutrients continue to come in. I'm going to hand off to my colleague Marty. He's going to tell you lots of technical stuff.
Department of Parks and Recreation. They are part of Eagle Creek Park. And the northern boundary is 79th Street. That is upstream of that triangle there at Lafayette Road and I-65, where Lebanon proposes to put 15 million gallons of treated wastewater effluent into Eagle Creek Park. Eagle Creek Park is commonly referred to as 3,900 acres of land and 1,400 acres of water. Those components make up the park. That blue area is the lake, and that lake extends all the way down to 38th Street. The land, the green area, extends extends down to 56th Street. It's a forested wilderness on the west side of the lake, all the way to the county line. It's a forested recreation area on the east side. And there's a very sensitive area where this discharge would enter. It includes the Eagle Crest Dedicated State Nature Preserve and the Eagle Creek Waterfowl Sanctuary. That highly sensitive part of Eagle Creek Park has wetlands, shallow water, and seasonal mudflats. It's the exposed lake bed. That's places rich in food for the fish and wildlife that live in the park, and it's an important nesting habitat for dozens of species. And we know as scientists that water levels, water temperature, water quality can greatly affect both the numbers, the types, and the diversity of the aquatic plants and aquatic organisms that feed the fish, the turtles, and the frogs, and the birds, and the mammals of Eagle Creek Park. Eagle Creek Park is among the top spots in Indiana for bird diversity. That means number of species. Diversity is an indication of a healthy water ecosystem, and polluted systems have very few. The ones that can tolerate pollution would be the ones that are there. And approximately 300 bird species have been observed in Eagle Creek Park. Half of those migratory. They come through, they stop, they hang out, they eat, they move either north or south on their migratory route. And as many as 24 of those species are endangered. So these critical locations for the migratory birds and the endangered species are getting fewer and fewer. So we need to really protect the ones that we have. And these mudflats that we've been talking about, 53 of these species need those mudflats for food, and 42 of the species that we know of eat the fish out of the reservoir. And you know these birds, the great blue heron, the bald eagle, the cormorant, the pelican, the ducks, and even the gulls, and the beaver, and maybe even the river otter. Now, I'm talking about seasonal mudflats in the waterfowl sanctuary. In this picture, you will see all the white birds on the mudflat. And that mudflat is between one of the two channels of Eagle Creek that is up in that northern area by the waterfowl sanctuary. And we put a lake water surface elevation, unofficial gauge there. This is just for illustration, but this 6-foot panel has numbers on it that record the elevation of the water in approximately feet above sea level. We calibrated it to the gauge down at the USGS gauge at the dam, and that water surface in the lake, based on the gauge data, varies about 3 feet a year. In the summer, the pool elevation submerges those mudflats. But because it's a flood control reservoir, the water level is lower in the fall and winter, in part to accommodate the inflow of floodwaters that will happen in the spring. And those mudflats are very sensitive to water level changes. You know, 1.5 feet and they're exposed, another foot and they're underwater. So these mudflats are a real critical habitat for migratory birds. And these birds depend on a reliable seasonal lake water level, something that we need to maintain. And you heard a lot of these changes to the park's lake that's going to happen in the next 5 years. It's tied to the water and wastewater needs of Lebanon. And there's a city contract being renewed for water withdrawal. That increase in water withdrawal and water supply capacity is part of that. And then the Lebanon discharge of wastewater to Eagle Creek Park. Whether the outfall is in the park or in Eagle Creek, it begins to raise the question of what are we going to get here with our water. There's water in from Eagle Creek and its tributaries. There's water out being pumped out on the water intake on the causeway on the left, and there's water coming out over the dam. And the question is, are we going to have times where there's too little or too much? And when is that going to happen? Worrying about the wastewater effluent gives us concerns about the harmful algal blooms that can be created by excess nutrients, and concerns about the trace organic chemicals that no one traditionally measures. Scientists need exceptionally low-level detection capabilities for these, but these are still going to be in that effluent we have learned. And what does that mean when you talk about anti-degradation? I suggest, as most scientists would, that we need more information. We need a modern baseline of information on the reservoir volume and storage capacity, and that would tell us, after 56 years that the lake has been there, what has happened with sediment accumulation, how much room do we have, how much water do we have, and with that you can calculate a budget, water in, water out, from the different scenarios, and predict those worst case scenarios during the droughts when the water level is low and there's a lot of water demand, or those times when the water level has been kept artificially high for other reasons, and then we have a flood. And I'll also say that the lake water column and sediment chemistry has not been studied thoroughly for many, many years, and we need more information about that in order to judge whether anti-degradation is being made possible. The last thing I'll show you, and this is a comment to our friends from Lebanon, they had 7 different sites where they could have potentially decided to put their wastewater outfall. You see Lebanon in the top left, Eagle Creek down here in the bottom, and the 7 sites are numbered as they have them. Some as far north as State Road 32, 2 Eagle Creek or its tributaries, some to Fishback Creek at number 2 or 6. And what we would hope that they would do is to reconsider location 7 that goes into Eagle Creek Park, and perhaps choose the White River to the east, or perhaps well, you know, I realize all of you love this park as much as I have for 50 years. Thank you for being here.
Initial route, we'd like to understand it, we'd like to understand why it's not part of the conversation today. Secondly, this economic development project is bringing jobs to Indiana. If it is going to be an innovation district, why don't we also make it an innovation district for water use? Technology that can be used for water-intensive businesses to lower the use of their water. Less water up means less water back. We think that's a good thing for the park and for the water users in Central Indiana. Keep an eye on how much water can actually come out of Eagle Creek Reservoir. We want to be sure we know what that number is. We want to be sure you know what that number is. And if it starts to vary, if it starts to go up at certain points in time, we would like to be aware of that. We'd also like to encourage the city to charge citizens more if it can take more time. Overall, again, really quickly, we've got a situation where Eagle Creek Park is being penalized potentially for bad site decisions by the IPC. And the natural resources that are the quality of life issues that attract us to this place to begin with. Yes, bringing jobs, but we choose to live here because of the park. We choose to live here because of the amenities. We want you to see them as our natural assets, as well as, again, your opportunities for commodity. Next, there is still time for decisions, and that's why we continue to have conversations with these folks, which are really important. I know they're important to you. We'll continue to try to keep you apprised. People care about this park. It has been an incredibly unifying issue. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care what you're going to do tomorrow. We love the park. That matters. We're going to figure this out. effort. You clearly are here tonight. Thank you for your time, thank you for your dedication, and for your commitment to this issue. We will continue to try to work through it. But the other quote that's on the board up here is from the Planning Commission president in Boone County. And that's his perspective of what the LEAP project means to them. And I'll let you read that, I'll let you process that, and my point to you again is that no one in this room has made the decisions that have put us here. But it is up to us to try to figure it out. We'll do the best we can. Thank you very much.
Impacted by this project, including via infrastructure, have had to speak about their concerns. What we're going to do is ask everyone to please do your best to keep your concerns and question to 2 minutes, and then we're going to have 2 minutes for reply from citizens and from Lebanon, so no more than 4 minutes total. And so if you are going to ask a question, what we're going to do is ask you to please carefully walk over, and there's a microphone that is being set up at this moment. Maybe we should chant. Say Eagle Creek.
Say Eagle Creek!
Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek! Say Eagle Creek!
So, thank you. Carefully, if the neighbors want to come up first, that's great. And folks that are also in proximity or in close contact with this issue.
A comment or question in the center, just line up, watch your step as you're walking down. Thank you. Again, under 2 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Cindy Lamberjack, and I'm engaged in this process because I'm the contact for the Eagle Creek Rural Historic District, nominated and placed on the National Register in 2009. This district runs up Moore Road along the proposed Citizens water line. We actually worked with citizens in 2017 on a water line running along 96th Street. It was a great experience, good transparency, good communication throughout. The current Moore Road project has been different and not so good. I have been involved with the district for many years, yet no one had contacted me directly ever regarding the district and water line, despite informing citizens in April of our involvement. Our neighborhood has had to push, pull, and whatever to gain information. Our neighborhood became aware of the Moore Road water line in March 2025. Communication had been either unavailable or confusing. Facts had varied depending on who you talked to, which brought us to the Section 106 review, the federal review process protecting historic assets such as our rural historic district. The DHPA, responsible to protect and preserve these assets, is responsible for a Section 106 review. In this case, we found that DHPA had made an incorrect Section 106 determination in January of 2025 before we even knew anything about this project. It was incorrect because they determined that the proposed water line would have no significant impact on the district except for the cemetery. In actuality, numerous assets would have been impacted or in fact demolished. We had and still have concerns that the Section 106 process was not followed or documented correctly. Anyway, in November, we finally secured a meeting with our community and citizens. We found that, happily, that citizens had incorporated revisions to their initial map that would now bypass any assets in the district which would have been impacted or demolished. We certainly appreciate citizens' revisions, but still have not seen final written approval from the DHPA. Our district and the federal protections it provides is important to our community, but the lack of transparency, communication, procedural issues, and facts pertaining to this portion of the much larger water project, LEAP project, should be a concern for all involved moving forward. Thank you.
My name is Tom Zepka. I'm 80 years old. I retired in Indianapolis. I live right on. Okay, I'm sorry. I live right on the reservoir. I haven't heard too much about. I've heard a lot about how much is going to go and how much is going to flow, but I haven't heard about what's coming out the other end when it comes back. I'd like to hear some really good numbers. What I have here is an Eagle Creek Watershed Management Plan that was made in 2009. The EPA gave us a 319 grant, and all the streams and stuff that came into Eagle Creek were studied. And they, as a result of that, best management procedures, BMPs. Maybe we got to express that a little bit more. Best management procedures. I would give, I don't know, have you ever seen this or even referred to it? I'll answer it later. Anyway, but there are hard numbers in here. There are hard numbers, not one of these deals with lip service. Well, we're going to take care of that, or well, you know what? It'll be good. No, I want numbers. In here are numbers of pollutants that come in on our regular streams at regular times. My challenge to you guys is, unless you can enhance these numbers, you've got no reason to be here. Okay, I would like to say, there's just some stuff that's interesting. It's not only the streams and stuff, it's also the farmers and stuff like that. You know, you get runoff. As a result of best management practices, 22,000 tons of topsoil were saved as a result of this management plan. 22,000 tons. That's scary. In fact, we probably need another watershed management plan to be in place, as you stated earlier. And I think it would be a very good thing. I will say this. You can spend $1 billion for 50-some miles of tubes. Why don't you spend about $50 million and build your own reservoir?
My name is Kevin Russell. I'm having her pass up a drawing on the computer that you guys can see. And I will ask the four of you, as far as executive to citizen, would you be comfortable with 2 1.5 million gallon tanks and machinery that's going to be running 24/7, less than 200 feet from your backyard? And would you do it by eminent domain with less than 60 days notice? That's the first thing I'm going to get into. And yeah, you can see it. If you tell me you'd be comfortable with that in your backyard, I got a bridge to tell you. I'll be honest. And the problem is it doesn't have to happen. Now, I'm for economic development. Lebanon, you talk about transparency. You talk about the wastewater coming down. Have you bothered to actually talk to your neighbor to the south, Whitestown? Yep. I talked to Whitestown admin. They knew nothing about this. Now, Indianapolis Road, currently, and I used to be on the Whitestown Council years ago, and that's why I know this stuff, it has 2 power lines on the east side of that road, Indianapolis-Lafayette Road. It has a water line for Indianapolis coming from citizens and through a pump station, no tank and no water tower. And then it has wastewater, all the wastewater coming out of Whitestown and part of Zionsville, coming down Indianapolis Road to go across 750 to wastewater treatment plant. And right now, the proposed route for this water line is also going to be on Indianapolis Road. Where are you planning on putting this? And are you going to let your neighbor have to absorb the cost of repaving this road? Right now, Indianapolis Road has 5,000 residents and is in Whitestown on that road, with about another 1,000 housing units coming in. That's been approved. The traffic, Indianapolis Road needs to be widened. There's supposed to be roundabout at 750 in Indianapolis Road. You're talking about the logistics of putting all this stuff in. You're going to strangle Whitestown from being able to widen the road to be able to serve the people. You know, I'm scared about the discharge going down Eagle Creek, but it's the logistics and the transparency. You gave our HOA, that common area of our HOA, and you gave them 60 days to respond to the eminent domain you filed against them. Is that right? Is that, like I said, would you be happy with that in your backyard? That's the start. And you, where are you going to put it? Now, the logical place to put this, and I had asked Alex to put it up and he didn't get it up, and a lot of people have this right here. You're coming across 56th Street, and right by the railroad track, you're going north. Now, you're going to go north, snake it up, to 925 to 950 in Hendricks County. Then you're going to go east. You're going to go north again. Then you're going to go across Indianapolis Road, and then you're going to go west on 750, and eventually you're going to work over to 267. The problem is, why not just go up Ronald Reagan? Ronald Reagan, Hendricks County is getting ready to break ground on the next leg of Ronald Reagan, which is going to take it up to 86th Street, 1000. Hendricks County owns the right-of-way all the way up to the county line. Whitestown, Whitestown has the right-of-way being dedicated to 750 from the housing subdivision.
1 second, y'all. A couple of reminders, thank you. Number one, when you speak, make sure to choke up on the microphone. Please don't hit your face, but you're going to have to hold it up. Thank you, Kevin. Let's give some time for
Yeah,
response.
I apologize, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. I know the first change we've had to talk with citizens in Lebanon for some of you, so just make sure you give time for response if that's what you want. If you don't want time, that's okay, we'll keep going. But just a reminder. So like I said, people can't hear in the back when you lose the microphone. So you got to keep it up here. Okay, thank you.
Hi there, my name is John. I am a 30-year Pike Township resident, and I currently live on Eagle Creek. And I heard everyone say how much they love Eagle Creek. You can't love it and use it as much as I do. And I know you're not as concerned about it as I am. So I'm going to make 4 statements, of which I think the board up there, and I do appreciate you being here, but I think I want to make some points to think about that I think everyone in this room deserves to hear about later in your transparency. So, if you are so transparent, first of all, why haven't we heard about what happened with the Wabash River back in the middle of the summer when that got denied? Please be totally transparent with us about what happened there and why. I also believe that CEG has many times mentioned moderate drought. What about extreme drought? Tell us about that. Please better define moderate drought and extreme drought conditions and what you will be able to do in those situations for us to keep that water level the same like you said you would like to have it. I heard a lot of anticipates and models. Can you guarantee me 100% of the time that 100% of the water that is dumped back into Eagle Creek is 100% treated? I'll take a yes or no right now. 100% of the time, 100% of the water. what happens in an extreme flood situation or when you can't handle all that water through those treatment plants? Okay, I'll let you explain that to us later. So I also believe that a bathymetric survey should be done for a baseline of what our reservoir is. And I also agree with the gentleman earlier that you need to have a plan, a water resource and ecological plan. Eagle Creek, as you saw, is one of the largest municipal parks in the country. It is the largest in Indiana. It is a fragile ecological gem that should not be compromised in any way.
Thank you all for being here. I'm State Representative Cherish Pryor. And hearing the presentations caused me more concerns than what I had when I got here. I'm still concerned about the transparency that initially happened. I'm also concerned about the water that's going to be coming back to Indianapolis as well. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to be utilizing the water, you're going to be treating the water can stay there and not come back to us. And I realize you're saying that it's going to be treated, but as Luann had mentioned, when we had the guide 20 years ago, it's taken 20 years for that to be cleaned up. So I'm not convinced at all that we're getting a good deal out of this project. And the other thing I want to say is I serve on the Utilities Committee. Utilities, technology, and energy. And what I have seen on that committee year after year after year after year is the taking away of local control and also the taking away of locals being able to input on concerns that they have, whether it's not having as many hearings as people want to. As a matter of fact, we have a bill this year that is going to take away some authority or take away completely some authority from IDEM because the EPA has authority over those particular projects. So I'm not convinced at all that we're getting a good cut out of this deal. And again, if the water is going to be so good, once you clean it, I think it can stay in Lebanon. And you can figure out a way to recycle your water and just get water from us that you need, but keep your water there that you utilize.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you guys for being here this evening. Thank you to Luann and Martin for being here as well. I know you've been really big advocates for this, so thank you for that and helping us organize for this. Also, thank you to all of you guys for being here because we have questions, we want answers. I was asked here to be on behalf of residents of Speedway, and so there's a lot of questions. I'm going to try to stick within time. My name's Jacqueline Fries, so here are the biggest questions that I got. So one of the first ones is that the quality of water, that's a big concern. Eagle Creek was invented or built to supplement the floods that happened, that people died. So the thing is, what's the concern here amongst many residents is we're seeing this deregulation at the federal level. Indiana's legislation for the IDEM is for the federal. They match it completely. It's very interchangeable. So what the concern is here is how are we going to guarantee quality over time? Because we're seeing that deregulation, and especially we know PFAS and other things are in our water that are currently not being scanned or completed for. So we want to make sure that that's also being tested and making sure that our water still remains clean. The second thing is obviously everyone here is talking about transparency, but I feel like a lot of lack of trust now within citizens and the utilities. How do you plan to rebuild that trust and make sure that in the future when projects like this happen, there is trust and there is transparency? Several elected officials in the meetings I've been to have said, we did not know about this. This is in my district. What efforts are you taking to make sure this is transparent and accountable, to make sure elected officials know what's going on in their own districts? So those are my questions. I would like to stick within time to make sure everyone can speak. But thank you guys for being here, and I really hope to get those answered of what you can do to rebuild trust and ensure the quality, because we're seeing that deregulation. Thank you.
Do you want to respond? If not, we'll keep moving. I'm just checking.
We also are very concerned with water quality. As we talked about, we have our drinking water treatment plants and the rigorous processes there. In terms, I'm not going to try to dive into the political realm and what's happening. I will say that I've been doing environmental regulatory stuff for over 30 years, and the last 27 in citizens, and none of our permits, none of our regulations have been eased over time. Our permit limits are getting more stringent as water quality standards become more stringent. So that's from our perspective. I don't know if you want me to hand the mic over to my friends at Lebanon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Do you want?
You know, I have discussed the water quality standards with IDM, and I've been reassured at the commissioner level down to the Office of Water Quality that is not occurring. I don't know where a lot of people there, but I have asked that question directly.
Thank you. Will either utility oppose Senate Bill 277? Will you write the legislature and tell them that they should not pass that bill?
I'm sorry.
It's no more stringent then. Will either of your utilities advocate for that?
Yeah, we don't really have influence on the legislation.
Okay, thank you. Citizens, anything on that one? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mark Vanderkoy. I've been a resident of Pike Township for about 25 years. Thank you all for being here. This is very informative. I guess I'm more confused now than I was when I walked in the door on the timing issue. I've heard, we were told, hey, it's going to start in January of this year. Well, we're past that. Then I was told that we're going to start, and our house is affected by this. So, we're going to start in the spring. And now somebody just told us 2028 it's going to start. So could you just walk us through from the start to the finish? Hey, we're going to do this. We plan to do this and this and this and all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And it's good to see you again. We have started this process for the planning. So let me back up and provide an overview. All of these projects have gone through planning, design, and then soon will go through construction in various phases. As a project of this large, you can imagine that things have a staggered start and also a staggered delivery date. A few moments ago, Steve noted that by the 1st of January 2027, there will be a 2 million gallon a day delivery up to Lebanon Utilities, and then 10 million gallons a day by 2028, and then ultimately in 2035, that peak flow of 25 MGD. So because of these large projects, they've been broken down into specific segments. Here's a particular segment near you, Vera's property, that is under construction, or that we're targeting construction in early spring. That'll be one of the projects that's earlier in the completion timeline. One of the projects that's later in the completion timeline is the expansion of the TW Moses facility within the fence that was discussed a little earlier. That project should be finished in that 2031 range. So from a water supply standpoint, there are multiple projects that will span over approximately 5 years. All of those projects are today at different levels of planning, design, and technically in construction on all facilities. So that's our water supply. I'll turn it over to Lebanon to provide their timeline.
As Ed referenced earlier, construction for the return line isn't anticipated to begin until 2028, but we're still in the preliminary planning and design stages for that project.
My name is Jenny Jenkins, and tonight I'm embarrassed to say that I'm a resident of Boone County. If Citizens Energy is taking 1 to 3 million gallons per day of water from Eagle Creek to send to LEAP, why is Eagle Creek Park and the citizens of Indianapolis being gifted the entire amount of approximately 15 to 25 millions of gallons per day of LEAP wastewater? That's more than 100 million gallons discharged per week. If the majority of water being sent to LEAP comes from across the Indy Water Distribution Center, then logic says that the majority of the water should be returned to its place of origin. You can't have it both ways. Either it comes from the entire system and it goes back to the system, or a fraction comes from Eagle Creek and that same fraction comes back.
One second. Go ahead and answer. Sorry, go ahead.
The flow's being brought back into the White River watershed. Eagle Creek is the closest place.
Okay, I think they were asking about the difference in the return amount. Can you explain why the return amount is so much larger than the intake from Eagle Creek, please?
Just for that very reason. It's coming from across the entire system.
Okay, and that, just a quick follow-up there. Can you explain where else water's coming from in the system, 1 million gallons per day for each of those locations, please?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we have 256 million gallons per day of capacity between our 10 treatment plants.
Where is it coming from specifically? Real quick, please. Thank you.
All of those treatment. We have 43 miles made within our distribution system that water cleanse before going to our
Okay, so there's not an exact amount from Geist, for example?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate people letting me step forward. I'm Dan Boots, I'm a city county councilor here in Indianapolis. Highlight a couple points. Some of our concerns are the lack of studies. The Wabash alternative had all kinds of studies, mandated and paid for by the state mostly, I understand, yet we've seen none for this project. So I think people feel they've been short-circuited here by such a quick turn to Eagle Creek. So also, with respect to the water being discharged, would you ever consider discharging potable drinking water back down? If you're gonna bring it all back down, can you even make it cleaner? Is another option. The northern line going up, is it possible for the residents whose yards are being torn up, can anybody tie into that, or can you add fire hydrants along the line to increase fire safety of the people who are being inconvenienced by the lines? So that's another point. The discharge location, number one issue, it must move. You must move the discharge line. There's concern with the pharmaceutical company up there, and we all know who that is. We don't know who all the future tenants are going to be. There's going to be chemicals coming out of that leak that we may not even know exist yet, and we don't know if they can be detected. We need to make sure that the Lebanon facility has the capacity to do all the biological concerns, detect phosphorus, detect nitrogen, all the PFAS and everything, particularly the pharmaceuticals. As we know now, many pharmaceuticals can get through most wastewater treatment plants. So we need to make sure Lebanon's is the most technologically advanced waste plant in the world to make sure none of that gets through. And then finally, I'll just leave. How can you guarantee the people, even if it's clean drinking water, that it will not upset the ecological balance of the reservoir? Even clean water, warm water, cold water can all impact the ecological balance. So I think we need to work on that and make sure there's more guarantees, because I'm seeing none thus far. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tom Finnegan. I'd like to thank everybody for the presentations this evening and what they've given us information-wise. I have what I think is one simple question that our Congress lady touched upon but wasn't answered. And maybe Bob Holden, this goes to you. Was it ever looked at, and if not, why, was a circular water system for the area of Lebanon, which is in a water desert, thought about, proposed, or studied so that they can buy water, purchase it, treat it, recycle, and reuse it in their own water park, as opposed to taking it?
That was studied, but there was a water recycling study that was done and it was deemed infeasible. Largely, the primary issue is that when you recycle water like that and when you clean it, you don't clean 100% of it. Through the membrane, there's a portion of that water that's cleaned and returned. Unfortunately, there also is a concentration, and there's a stream that comes off of that that's much dirtier. And so that's what the downfall of that situation is. And really, there's no place to dispose of it.
I'd like to add on to that. I think that what Dr. Holt was addressing is recycling for the actual company in the business park. I think what you were asking, and maybe I'm wrong, but in 2009 they did a study with looking at putting in a reservoir in the Sugar Creek watershed. And what they found was it would take 15 or 20 years to develop it. It would dampen the railroad tracks, build bridges, move I-65, and it would just be easy for that reason. So I want to make sure we cover all bases. So when Dr. Holt was talking about the recycle, it was brought up for recycling for meta and
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything quick from citizens? We have about 36 seconds left for that question. Thank you.
Hello, my name's John Patton, and I live on the county line in Hendricks County, just a few hundred feet from Eagle Creek Park. I also serve on the Eagle Creek Park Foundation Advisory Committee, and I, of course, share the deep concerns expressed regarding the safety and the protection of our treasured Eagle Creek Park ecosystem. But I'm here this evening to ask a question with respect to your plans to run the forced water main through Hendricks County. Although I'm not a property owner whose land you demand to take through eminent domain if necessary, I have listened to our county commissioners and my neighbors who have gone on record to express their frustration with your plans prohibiting connection to the water source. This frustration is born out of the lack of transparency and communication with our elected officials and property owners that really brings us here tonight. Better collaboration may have produced an outcome which under the conditions that allow eminent domain to be enacted in the first place would actually benefit the public most greatly affected by these plans. Are you now, or are you willing to have, discussions with elected officials in Hendricks County to cooperatively engineer a project that truly benefits my Hendricks County neighbors and the long-term infrastructure plans for the county?
Sean, thank you for your question and your comment. There's three things. First, I'd like to talk about easements to help address that, provide a baseline understanding, and then the transmission main, the connection component. And then to your last point, Sean, I'll briefly chat on that, or touch on the conversation in Hendricks County. So first off, the easement process. Those processes through extensive planning and design, alignments are thought through and planned. And then we develop those easement documents and put together an entire package. The intention of that entire package, which due to the legal requirements of that package looks somewhat formidable, that the intention is to provide all of the information to the property owner at once. And we follow up, and that's sent via certified mail. We follow up after that issuance today. Between 1 to 3 days is the target. I'm sure there's been a case where it's been the 4th day, maybe the 5th day due to weekends or holidays. But generally the target is within 1 to 3 days, so allowing U.S. mail to take their time to get it there. And then we followed with those front porch and those living room conversations about the contents of that package and why we're there and provide all the information that we can. And there's some in the room that hopefully can attest to that situation. It may be a situation that's tough and maybe disagreeable from the idea of it, but there has been a strategy towards a lot of transparency on that particular process. So then I'll transition to the transmission main component. Those transmission mains are akin to a highway. You wouldn't have a driveway to a residential property on or as adjacent to a highway, 65 or something. And very similarly, we have these transmission mains that have an intention of conveying large quantities of water from one location to another. So we are working with folks on both of those regards. Now, Sean, to your last point about a commitment to having conversations with Hendricks County for the betterment of Hendricks County, we serve communities in Hendricks County, and I see I'm out of time, so I'll be brief in saying this. We do and plan to have those continued conversations, not only about this project, but all the other projects that we do in Hendricks County. So due to time, I'll stop there.
Okay, I have a quick follow-up, and that is, I know it's engineered. What I'm really asking is it so fully engineered that you're not willing to have communication with Hendricks County to look at how it could be engineered to satisfy connections by private property owners and the public?
There was a question about Rockaway and Parkway. Those conversations for very different projects started in 2020 and 2021.
Can you just do yes and no? I'm sorry. Is it
We're
yes or
committed to
no?
those conversations with Hendricks County to maximize the benefit of all the entities there for this program.
Thank you. Everyone, we do have a huge line. We are going to take comments. If you can do it in 30 seconds, please. A minute, please, tops for each. Thank you.
Luann and Martin, thanks for standing up for us. I think the two things that we're looking at over here is the strain on water resources and pollution, two main issues. And we all forget as humans that water is a commodity when we are in the business of water. But only 0.15 to 0.19% of the water on Earth is potable, i.e. drinkable, 0.15%. And we tend to waste water. The other thing is, other commodities like gold, silver, and petroleum have futures on them. Water is the only commodity with no futures contract, so we tend to be careless. We don't put a price on water because it is a finite resource. We do not look at it because there is a no futures price. We don't look at the Dow Jones. I have comments, and I don't really need any questions. It's, you talked about 25 million gallons of withdrawal, and then added to it is the 5 million gallons per day needed for a data center. And I'd like to know what is the volume of water discharge, wastewater discharge, versus the 25 million gallon withdrawal. One versus the other.
Okay, hold clapping. I love you guys. Sorry. Thank you.
So Citizens is committed to providing up to 25 million gallons a day of water to Lebanon Utilities. As Bob noted on one of the slides, that would equate to approximately 15 million gallons a day on average. And on Bob's slide, you saw that was the corresponding return values. These are estimates and averages, but for us, that is a top line number. There will not be, it's physically restrained to be able to provide more than 25 MGD. That is, it will only provide 25 MGD to Lebanon Utilities.
Okay, and I'll just quickly summarize an answer from City Council, which is the Meta data center will evaporate about half of the 8 million gallons per day used, so 1.46 billion gallons a year will not return to our water system.
All right, hello. My name is Lauren Fisher. I've lived in the neighborhoods just to the east of the reservoir for 37 years now. I want to go back to the graph with the drawdown from the reservoir over time. And we had that massive drawdown from old years up to 2000, which you said has an intake of around 63 MGD. And then it got better and we draw down less and less and less. and it increased around 93. So about a 30 MGD increase, right? But now you're saying that increase that allowed that graph to stable out so we draw less from the reservoir, you want to give away. Which sends us back to the pre-2000 part of that graph where we're having to draw down a lot each year. I'm not comfortable with that, and I would like to know your thoughts.
Yeah, no, what the reservoir drawdown graph doesn't show is the water that's going through the reservoir past the dam that isn't being retained to keep the water levels up. That's the water we want to use, not the water that's already maintaining the water level.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Morgan, and I am reading a question on behalf of someone who's unable to make it here tonight. So, in Indiana, most reservoirs do not have discharges into them. Patoka, Monroe, Brookville have no discharges. Of the 8 reservoirs that have discharges, 7 of the permitted discharges are for minor volumes, under 100,000 gallons a day, like Dyson Morse. The major discharge is Turtle Creek Reservoir, which has the Miram Power Plant in Sullivan County. Is this a risk that the people of Indianapolis should carry? It seems that if a project of this scale is needed, the pipeline should be headed directly either to the White River or Wabash River. Shouldn't the largest, wealthiest corporations on the planet, like Lilly and Meta, be able to make this happen or recycle the water on site? To respond. Go ahead, go.
I'd be happy to debate those. We took the same, that was the graph that we showed with the drinking water reservoirs. So.
Thank you. Hi, Tina Oakes. I have a couple questions. One, I completely oppose dumping this into Eagle Creek. I live right next to Eagle Creek, and I think you're just going to lead to ruining our drinking water and our water for our birds and all of our animals and everything. But a couple of things. So you mentioned several times about the contracts and the laws will prevent any pollutants from going into the water, that you will clean it before it comes there. My question is, once these data centers are built and the factories are built for these 9 businesses, if you start exceeding those limits, will you then allow variances? And if so, okay. But then you also said, if we start exceeding those, well, you can pursue criminal action. But what about just stopping? You said nothing about what happens if you start exceeding those limits.
Shut off the water. You can't exceed those limits. That's part of that legal process.
Hi, I'm Kathy Eberly. I've lived here for over 30 years. You talk about the reservoir. The reservoir is created by the dam. The dam protects people and the reservoir, which has the house for the animals and the birds and stuff. What kind of studies have you done with this much and the flow capacity coming in that I heard tonight on the dam so that the dam isn't compromised like we've seen in other areas of the Midwest?
So just for context, that dam structure is designed to be able to handle flows of over 6 billion gallons of water per day. So,
and you know that for a fact?
Yes.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I'm Susan, and I live across the street from what we refer to as the Catamaran Beach. And I've lived here across from the creek for 30 years. This is devastating. I continue to live here as a retired person because of the reservoir and all the wonderful things. I would just say too, there are so many compromised waterways in the United States. There's a dead zone at the bottom of the Mississippi River. When I lived in Chicago as a kid, there were things that happened in the lake, and we had alewives forever and species. You know, it doesn't matter where you look at waterways, we influence and change the ecosystems in very, very dangerous ways. We need a lot more.
Scott Hayden. You've told us about a lot of benefits that are going to happen to communities and to businesses. What benefits are there for Eagle Creek?
Improved drought resiliency.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think?
Improved drought resiliency.
Okay. Kind of along those lines, I learned something I didn't know today. You said that you said about having a surplus coming from upstream cities, that we actually have more water coming in and that increases. I didn't know that yet. But I think, why spend what you don't have yet? Like, that's all projected. You know, like, I think that Meta comes in and they see that they have, oh, there's a reservoir here. We could just take the water from here, or we could invest in trying to figure out a closed loop system. I know that Lebanon Utilities, you said that that's infeasible. I work at a factory in Lebanon that we were, pressured rightly to build our own pre-treatment facility for the stuff coming out of our factory. That's good. That's like the power that you have as utilities, that we have as voters, and people like to pressure these companies to pay for their own stuff. And that's a good thing. So my question is, why has that hit a dead end with Meta? Why are they just like, no, we need this much water, we're not going to innovate, figure it out. We can tell them to figure it out.
Anything new on that? Anything new you want to add?
Those companies aren't incentivized to because, quite frankly, that's an operational expense for them. But, 8 million gallons of water a day is not an insignificant expense in their operations. And so, Meta does employ a recycle group within their facility, and they recycle water up to 3 times to reduce that amount of water. Okay, and really also continually looks for water improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Brown Fletcher. My family's owned property in Pike Township since the 1930s. In a previous meeting, Citizens Energy stated that they are prepared to filter out substances as yet unknown and undefined. I assume they were speaking for Lebanon Utilities, and what crystal ball was Citizens Energy using? Why not use parallel transport pipes? If you're taking water from Geist, send it back to Geist, etc., etc. You focus on the quality of water and not the physical effects of what that water mass does.
Any quick responses? We're going to have to shut down here, you guys. We have time for 2 more questions. So if you can keep it under 30 seconds, that's appreciated.
Hi, my name is Megan Leiby, and I'm the HOA president of the neighborhood just south and east of Lafayette Road Bridge over Eagle Creek, directly across from where you are planning to put your discharge point. We're the closest neighborhood to the proposed outfall, and several houses have direct access and kayak and fish on Eagle Creek. Do you currently encourage the people of Lebanon to dispose of pharmaceuticals and medications in the sewer system? I actually Googled this today. I went to your website, and it is one of the prohibited items to flush, along with diapers and washcloths and plastic. It is not the size of being flushed that's problematic. Pharmaceutical effluents, or byproducts of pharmaceutical manufacturing, are more difficult to extract. According to Google AI, pharmaceutical effluents are a significant source of pollution, with concentrations 10 to 1,000 times higher than typical municipal wastewater. Often they are persistent, meaning do not degrade. Beyond being cost prohibitive, what can you do to mitigate these?
The Lilly pretreatment system mitigates the pharmaceuticals release to almost 100%. So they are very proactive and very conscious about that.
Okay.
My name is Steve Ward. I'm a 33-year resident of Pike Township, and the watershed flows through my yard that we're talking about, and I enjoy the feeling of my feet in that creek. I think your effort to come here and help communicate is great, but the slide that you put up that described benefits to us, nothing on that slide resonated with me. So I would encourage you to go back and try again, because I didn't come out of here hearing any benefit at all for the residents of Pike Township. And I feel like all of this is being borne on us in order to, certainly it sounded like the entire risk of the effluent coming back to Eagle Creek is being borne to minimize cost, which helps an at-profit trust. But I think it's the opportune time to talk about this, and I would direct this statement to anybody in our local government here. I think it's just tremendous that we have the opportunity to renegotiate the contract between the local city, the trust, and Citizens Energy on how water is going to be used for the next 50 years, because that should give us the leverage we need to make sure things are done on behalf of the people that are represented in the trust.
My name is Mark Miller. I'll be brief. Dr. Holden referenced the NPDE. My name is Mark Miller. I'll be brief. Dr. Holden referenced the NPDES specs or the permitting, and I'm familiar with the specs for that permitting. I believe, it's about 65 milligrams per liter for contaminants combined. Multiply that by 94,500,000 liters a day, and I get 1,350 pounds of wastewater contaminant coming into the creek on the very north end.
You couldn't hear. Do you know how much discharge per pound of pollutant is going into the north end of Eagle Creek? Do you know any of the pollutants and how many pounds?
It varies by the pollutant, by the concentration that
Okay.
is in the
We would love a list. Thank you.
All right, I'll be real brief. I had to fight that crackpot scheme to tap the Wabash. A long time ago, I had to fight that crackpot scheme for an outer beltway around Indianapolis. LEAP has nothing to do with location. It has to do with Mitch Daniels getting elected because of the mayor of Lebanon's daddy. Okay, that's what it's about. All right, the other stuff is smoke and mirrors. Citizens is to benefit the people of Indianapolis, not Lebanon. And, we got hospitals closing, billions of dollars spent on this boondoggle. Get out of our pockets, Lebanon.
My name is Tom Lauer, and I'm an aquatic biologist by profession. After looking at the projects, I find it hard to believe that a project of this size and scope will not have some anti-degradation problems going to Eagle Creek Reservoir. NPDES permits will not be able to always save the biota that's in the reservoir. And I'm wondering where there is any studies that you've done showing anti-degradation, or if there are any that are available, because I could not find any on the Lebanon or the Citizens websites.
As I said in the presentation, any demonstration has not been submitted yet. It's in draft form right now, and it's soon to be submitted.
How do we find those?
It'll be publicly noticed by item when it's submitted.
Hi, my name is Karen Doty. I'm a lifelong Eagle Creek resident. I live right across the street. I'm about as old as that reservoir. This whole thing just sickens me. It sickens me that two communities have to fight each other. I think the big issue is that our industries are not being respectful of the way we treat the environment. And I'm horrified that a plan like LEAP was ever devised without the input of local citizens. And I'm concerned about PFAS from that huge data center, and also Eli Lilly's pollution as well. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Demetrius Hicks. I am the president of the Pike Township Board, which is the fiscal and legislative body of this township. I find it disgusting that you did not communicate with any of the local leaders before trying to put this project and subject us to this. I can guarantee you, we beat the data centers and we will beat you.
Good evening. My name's Larry Kane, a retired environmental attorney. My question is, cut to the very quick, is this, and it really is more of a comment that relates to comments by Mr. Holman concerning the ability of EPA to very well oversee enforcement of the permits to be issued to both Lebanon and to the LEAP industries. I think my concern arises from this. These are excerpts from a New York Times article of March 13th of 2025. In this, Lee Zeldin, the administrator of EPA under Trump 2.0, says the following. Mr. Zeldin said that EPA would unwind more than 24 protections against air and water pollution, and he called the actions the largest deregulatory announcement in EPA history. Today, the new green scan ends as EPA does its part to bring in a golden age of American success. That does not sound to me like an enforcement agency. In fact, the EPA comments said nothing about environmental protection at all. So I am very doubtful about their ability to oversee this process.
Hey, quickly, I'm here, Amy Guzman, representing Westside Indian Invisible. We are fighting data centers and all these things. My son works at the park. We just recently moved 3 years ago to the area. We live in a lake south of Eagle Creek. We pay $500 for our HOA to make our water so we can swim in it. We can actually swim in our water. So I don't think you all are thinking about the overall picture of everybody else, because that is going to be affected through Little Eagle Creek, as well as the community of Eagle Creek and all of their activities, the community building there, my dog's walking there, my son works there, as well as the history of the Native American land and the history behind it. We really need to respect that. And I really appreciate you thinking about everybody that will be affected by this. Thank you.
All right, my name is Rachel Wolverton. I started the Change.org petition, and I just want to close this out today and say it's very clear that Eagle Creek is our sanctuary for our community. This feels like a very direct and personal attack, and it only takes one accident to destroy this sanctuary for all of us for a lifetime. As Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, that is the only thing that ever has. And my final message is this. As we spoke with the governor's office yesterday, one of the members there said that water transcends politics. It does. And there is still time to do what is right. Please do what's right. Please. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. Please.